This podcast will contain spoilers for all aired episodes of HBO's Game of Thrones and all published books in George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series. As you know, as obsequious as he is, he'd probably have something to say about Loras being jailed if he was still around.
My son is gay? Nonsense.
Welcome to the Vassals of Kingsgrave DragonCast edition. We're back this week to review the fourth episode of Game of Thrones Season 5, Sons of the Harpy. My name is Zach, also known as Alias, in the podcast of Ice and Fire forums, and joining me for this review, we have...
Adam, also known as drownedsnow on the forums.
Matt, Varley on the forums.
Bane is Shoeshiner in the forums.
And this is Paul, also known as Pod's Plight.
And there you go. We only have about, 5 people this time around. Probably less than you'd come to expect of a DragonCast this far in the season. But yeah, we've got a few people that couldn't make it tonight, so it will be a smaller council gathering here. As I was kind of saying as we were talking before the show started, it's about a little bit more than you'd want on a normal podcast, but we'll see what we can do with that. So yeah, let's go ahead and start with you, Adam. What did you make of this episode?
I really enjoyed it, actually. I think initially I probably would have given it like a 4, but I think I'm going to bump that up like a 4.25. I thought it was a really, really good episode. There were a lot of good scenes. There were a couple things we'll talk about later that I really didn't like, but like that ending was great.
Cool.
I think I gave it like 4.5 on the forums. I really liked it. There's a few things I didn't like. The Dorne animation I did not like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just one city.
Yeah. I know. But other than that, I thought it was a really good episode, and it's going off into a place where I don't know, and I'm looking forward to see where it goes.
All right, you, Bing?
I think I'm giving it 4.25. I loved most of it, and some of the scenes were really great. I think the scene I really hated the most was the sand snake scene.
Yeah.
Which was just I think it's not just the change; it's just poor writing.
And poor directing and just scenery, too. Yeah, we'll get into that. But yeah, that was my biggest gripe as well.
But yeah, the rest of it I actually really liked.
All right. And Paul?
Okay, after thinking long and hard, my tabulations have let me know that this episode was rated a 4.
Okay.
Okay.
Nothing that special. At first, I was pretty bummed about the ending, but I've come around to it a little bit. Overall, enjoyed a lot of what was going on, but not that great.
Sure. I think for me, it probably was the weakest episode for me. It was the first one for me where there were things that I genuinely just didn't like straight up, and it is mainly that sand snake scene that we'll of course talk about later. That is my biggest gripe for sure, and for that alone, it drops it a fair bit. I was thoroughly disappointed with that on many levels, and for the most part, yeah, there was some good stuff in there, some genuinely really good stuff. I didn't have a problem with the ending. I know that a lot of people were kind of bothered by it for whatever reason that again we'll get into. But yeah, I thought it was generally a pretty decent episode. So for that reason, I'd give it like a 3.5 lemon cakes. Let's go ahead and jump in here to our first scene. We'll be starting with the scene that opens, of course, in I guess the shores of Volantis, where Jorah Mormont sucker punches the fisherman, steals his boat, but leaves gold behind as a gentleman does. Even though I'm sure if he had really wanted to, he could have probably just bought the boat from the guy if he had the money. I don't know. But yeah, he takes off with Tyrion. Of course, we saw him kidnapping him last episode, and they're headed toward Meereen. We know that now. He reveals that if it wasn't clear previously, he's off to Queen Daenerys Targaryen, not Queen Cersei Lannister. So, what did you guys think of this part?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't spectacular, but it wasn't completely worthless.
Yeah, I think they're doing a pretty good job. There's this whole issue of managing the pacing of Tyrion's progress, because of course every episode we need Tyrion, because he's Tyrion, right? He's a big deal. And I think they've done a pretty solid job. It's definitely moving faster than the books, I think. I think that obviously they're going to end up at Meereen by the end of the season, and probably much earlier than that, or at least a bit earlier than that, so they can have their big rousing fighting pits moment at the end. And I think they're doing a pretty good job. I think that it's cool to see him interacting with new people, of course, first with Varys. Obviously that's not really new, but it's kind of a new sort of one-on-one, especially with how things have changed with them, and now with Jorah, and that's always cool when we have two characters that have been acting in isolation for so long finally meet up, and it was pretty cool to see them interacting. I did like first of all Tyrion's, it was the reins of Castamere he was muffling out of the binding on his mouth, right? That's what I was getting from that.
I couldn't make it out.
Oh
yeah, I couldn't make it out either.
I just assume it's the reins of Castamere at this point. I think
it's a good assumption.
The song in Westeros.
Yeah, the only only song in Westeros.
Well, it's,
I like the first two
fair.
things they says are, "Who are you? Do you have wine?"
Yeah, of course, keeping up with Tyrion's attitude thus far in the season, and I like that he was able to deduce so quickly that Jorah was Jorah. I think that suits his character, and I think there were sufficient clues to give that away.
Yeah, it's necessary exposition.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of thinking of this episode as a whole. There was a lot of exposition type stuff. Some of it not presented in the most compelling way, but I don't think this is an offender in that department. I thought it was a pretty cool way of getting this stuff going and seeing what's going to happen next. But yeah, it's pretty much just building toward the next thing. It's not really that awesome in isolation.
So having grown up on Bear Island, we can assume that Jorah is good with boats and stuff since they're on an island. But do you think it's at all realistic that one guy could sail his little boat all the way to Marine from Volantis?
Well, if Gendry can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they're going to go straight to Marine.
Yeah. He's going to stay along the coast.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've gotten so many of these hints through this season that something is going on with Grayscale, which more in this episode too. So I think that of course, even including the previews, that is going to come up. I think that little bit that we get in the books.
You would assume.
Yeah, I think that.
They talked way too much about Grayscale this season.
Yeah.
It would be so weird if it was just there was nothing it was building toward, and I think we're going to get some stone men pretty soon here, which will be a nice break in the boat ride.
At this point, they kind of have to, right? Like they're beyond the point where like they'd set things up in the first season or two and then never go back to it. Yeah. Like now, whatever they're putting out, like they need to use quickly.
Yeah, I mean,
doesn't Stannis mention the Stonemen by name?
Yes.
He does. Yeah.
And he relocated them to the ruins of Valyria instead of the Royan.
Yeah, that's interesting that they're there. I guess, are we going to see Valyria? That'll be, I guess, pretty cool to see how they're going to represent Valyria in the show. Obviously, it's this thing far off in the distance we're always speculating about, but I guess we're going to see it in some capacity, so.
Tyrion will find his long-lost uncle.
Yeah, he'll finally find Garyon.
find his Valyrian sword, family Valyrian.
Yeah, Bright
Warren Garyon, and what's the other Lannister that's missing? Obviously, he's there too.
Tylan?
Oh, God. We shouldn't have done this. Tyrek Lannister.
Tyrek, yeah.
You'll be there too, of course. In terms of whether or not it was believable with him sailing, I don't know anything about sailing. It did feel pretty casual. It seemed like a pretty laid-back rudder management there. But I don't know anything. All right, so let's go ahead and move to another scene with a boat, which is another boat that is not Gendry's boat. They were definitely teasing us with that, and obviously no fruition, still with Gendry. We have Jaime and Bronn heading towards Doran on their boat, talking about their plans and their lack of plans, as the case may be, as they approach, and about various things like war and if this is going to end badly for them because Jaime Lannister is so obvious.
I think he gave Tarth a little long, full look, like, oh yeah,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That was definitely what was going on there.
Yeah. Lots of sapphires over there.
There's the sapphires.
Also, Dornish girls are fuck mad.
Yeah.
They've really been reduced as a culture to that one stereotype.
But I think that's Bronn, though. I think that was more establishing Bronn as a character, right? It was like, this is Bronn again. We're reintroducing ourselves to his crude and lewd attitude toward things. So I think that was kind of part of what was going on. But yeah, I think it was kind of a weird moment. I agree. It was like weird, that's not all Dornish people are, but...
They should have had Bronn say sapphires.
Yeah, sapphires.
Good evening.
Hey.
Hello.
Welcome.
Howdy.
All right, so we have Alex, a.k.a. LuckyCharms, joining us. What did you think of the episode, Alex?
I believe I gave it 3 lemon cakes on the forums. I was quite pleased with the previous 3. I thought there were a few blunders in this episode, but we'll get into that.
Cool. All right, so let's move to the part where they finally arrive on the I don't know, the Dornish coast, I guess. I don't know where this is. And Jaime wakes up to a viper. It's a viper, yeah, trying to kill him, not a snake. And Bronn helps him out there. And then they are talking about how they want to die. Jaime mentions that he wants to die in the woman he loves arms, and yeah, we all know who that is. And Bronn wants to die a boring death because his life is so exciting, which is weirdly echoing Tyrion in my mind. Oh, I missed it actually. He does. I thought this was interesting that they talk about Tyrion and Bronn seems to think of him semi-fondly, and Jamie says that he would kill him on sight. Did you guys buy that from Jamie?
He'd split him in two.
Yeah.
I'm not really buying it. I think that he still loves Tyrion. He's just putting on a front to try to live up to the expectations of everyone.
He has to, right?
Well, in front of Bronn, though.
But everything's also more out in the open, right? Like everyone's like, oh yeah, you let Tyrion go, right? And your sister knows that too, right? Like it's very different.
Yeah, I suspect it's him trying to convince himself. I don't think he believes it though. I don't think he would really kill Tyrion if they met up. I don't know if they're gonna meet up. I guess maybe this is a hint they might. All right, so yeah, we head to the coast and they're ambushed by a few Dornish men. Jamie says that he can only take one slow, and Bronn offers him that option. He sets it up for him, and he's able to take him down with the help of his surprisingly, I guess not so surprisingly, helpful Iron Fist. It does help him get the job done.
I noticed that the coast of Dorne looks very much like the coast of Lake Michigan. The dunes and
I didn't notice that.
Almost identical. And the other thing I was noticing is, how did Jamie put a glove on his gold hand, which its fingers aren't separated? That was weird, but that's just a little nitpick.
He had it handmade for that.
That's a made glove.
He's like Captain Hook. He's got many hands.
Nice.
They mentioned dolphins and sharks in the scene.
They do. And
do you
sharks.
think dolphins would do you think FT Ward, those are along the lines of potatoes?
Well, sharks, they do actually explicitly mention them in the Dornish part of the World of Ice and Fire. I don't know about dolphins, but sharks, they're legit. Nothing to complain about there.
But they are in
the show
Dorne.
botched it.
Yeah.
They are in Dorne.
I mean, obviously.
But the Dornish men said there are no sharks in Dorne.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, they're not, I don't know how close they are. I guess the World of Ice and Fire says the south of Dorne, like that's where the Krakens and sharks, I don't know. Whatever. I love the names that they came up with, that Bronn came up with. Cooper and Darnell.
You have to think that would mean something to the writers that picked those ones, because that's such an odd thing to pick.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it sounds really funny. So I hope they keep up with that. Those aliases. It's another kind of uneventful scene. The big thing that is, eventful, I guess, but what it's establishing is that they're moving very slowly, very conspicuously. Jamie's kind of useless, it feels like. I mean, he can do some things, but he can't do much. He can't dig the pits, which it was weird to me. He seemed, I don't know, just very like, I can't do that. I'm totally useless. I don't think he'd want to be putting on that front. I feel like he'd be trying to make himself as useful as possible.
A bit more self-pitying than we'd think.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, yeah.
I like Bronn's little throwaway line that he had a good teacher, mentioning himself.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, that was classic Bronn right there. And it's cool to obviously see him in action again.
Okay, on the fashion front, I'd say Jamie and Bronn chose the worst thing to wear in Dorne: tight leather clothes, at all, and just look. They're going all for the glamour shots instead of being functional.
Yeah, well, if they're gonna start impersonating Darkstar, they need to be pretty glamorous. I think so.
Fair enough.
Did anyone else think that some of the panorama shots made the Dornish coast a bit too forested? When Jamie is falling down like the sand dune or whatever, there's just like this lush forest in the background. It's very
it didn't feel Dornish.
Yeah,
but they're kind of limited, so. True. I'll forgive it.
Where is Dorne being filmed? Do we know? Where is
Spain.
Also, I guess.
Well,
apparently this sequence was filmed in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
because I think they're just filming in Sevilla for the Water Garden and I don't know, Sunspear. Are we going to see Sunspear? We just see Dorne.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that was kind of what was more jarring for me with the Sand Snake scene, which I think let's go ahead and move to that. That's the next thing that happens in this part in Dorne. This was what jarred me partially, is the fact that it just didn't feel like a place in Dorne. It felt like, I don't know, it just felt weird that they were meeting in the middle of the
Caribbean.
Just the middle of this like random place with a tarp.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's like the worst campsite ever.
Yeah, so this was my least favorite scene of the episode.
They're all so hardcore.
Yeah, they're so badass. Yeah, which I mean, they're pretty cheesy in the books too, but still, God, I mean, this is probably one of my least favorite scenes in Game of Thrones as a whole. It just felt so cheesy and
over the
top and just awkward and weird and yeah.
Well, and it doesn't even make sense, right? Like they got this guy who comes and gives them information which they need. And they got like scorpions. Oh, I'm gonna throw my spear at him. Like, the next guy's not going to give you information once that word gets out.
You're giving no incentive for future informants.
Yeah, like you would have thought this already would have happened at some point, and this guy would have known better and kept his mouth shut. But
I mean, I would have been in it if it had just been the scorpions, but the spear is just a step too far, I think.
yeah, exactly. Like a little torture or whatever, send the guy on his way with a few bucks and a story, and he's crapped his pants. But you kill him, and well. He's got a whole ship. He's got a whole ship full of people that are going to be like, "What the heck happened?"
I mean, it's obviously meant to set up, I guess, a cool trailer shot, but like, it's so weird to think about them like taking the time to bury him.
That took so long to dig such a big hole,
and to put a bucket over his head just for this theatrical reveal where she whips.
They needed like some servants nearby that were like had some shovels that looked like clearly had done the work.
Yeah, it was strange. There's lots of strange.
Well, there was so much sun, they didn't want him to die from the heat, right?
Yeah, they had to.
They're being kind.
They have to become themselves with their spear for the skull.
Yeah, they had to have their big exposition moment, which was incredibly strange. I mean, this is a direct thing from the books that Obara tells this story, but it was just the weirdest way of representing it. And I don't think Obara's actress is bad or anything. It was just so weirdly delivered and weirdly set up. Like, do you want to join in? Let me tell you this long story about my origins.
Yeah, it seemed like an info dump.
I mean, yeah, you could have just said yes. Yeah.
There's no way to make any of these lines act good, and that's it's just ridiculous. It doesn't fit with the rest of the episode as well.
Yeah.
These characters don't even belong in this world, it feels like.
They just don't fit, and they're just not interesting so far. I mean, I don't want to judge too harshly on this, because again, like we haven't seen everything with the sand snakes, right. And they could get better. But this scene in particular, they didn't feel like interesting characters at all. Nothing about them made me think, oh, these are awesome, Oberon's daughters that have all kind of unique, cool skill sets. I don't know. I just was totally unengaged by this.
They certainly had peculiar boots with the curly toes and high heels in sand.
Yeah, their whole costume was just, I don't know.
They do seem very disconnected.
Yeah, it was just not the greatest of scenes. And it doesn't feel like they're much of a threat right now. I guess they're going to be a threat to Jaime and Bronn, but otherwise they just don't seem to have the political push that they may have had.
They're out in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly.
They have literally 4 people. Are you going to fight the entire west, like the rest of the country with 4 people?
It's like they took a camping trip to Joshua Tree and they're like, we're really going to fix things.
Oh, God.
That's perfect, yeah. They don't seem threatening at all to me right now. But yeah, we've harped on this enough.
Well, the content of the scene is kind of goofy. The opening shot of Ilaria, clad in black, riding down the Dornish coast is impeccably shot.
That's true. That was a pretty solid one, yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and move to King's Landing, where we open with this scene in the small council, where Mace Tyrell is told that he's going off to Braavos with Meryn Trant as escort to negotiate with the Iron Bank.
Was he just too goofy in the scene?
I mean, that's him, right? That's the
him
portrayal.
In the whole show.
Yeah, he's an oaf, and that's fitting, right? That seems to fit.
I don't know, like he's like, the Tyrells could pay, and then if the crown doesn't pay, I'll have words with my daughter. And it's like, what? Stop.
He's the best.
He's awesome.
And he's like, ooh, I get my own Kingsguard.
Ooh. Yeah, I love the way he rolls with
the only one that
everything.
we know other than Jaime.
Yeah, well, then we do get a couple guys talking as Kingsguard in the scene later with Tom, and then we don't know who they are. They do get to speak, at least. Of course, we have to mention with Mace Tyrell, and Meryn Trant, it obviously seems to be setting up some kind of confrontation with Arya in future with Meryn Trant, of course, still being on her list. We'll have to see
yeah, hopefully. One thing I wanted to add is I had a little time at work today, so I freeze-framed the Littlefinger letter, and what I was able to make out was to be of further blank, 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 my establishment. I don't know what that means, but,
Was he talking about his whorehouse in the letter?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right.
I don't know.
That doesn't work out well for him, as we'll soon see.
Do we think that Cersei was planning to have Meryn Trant eliminate Mace Tyrell, or just hold him hostage, or I
don't know with Cersei at this point what her plan was. I think that my opinion is, well, I guess it's weird because I assume that she thinks of Mace as ineffectual, so why would she think that he would have any chance of making the Iron Bank be convinced of anything?
Yeah, it was just to get him away and show Marjorie, I can take your people off the board.
I think that was the primary motivation, and it shows kind of Cersei's short-sightedness that she's not taking the Iron Bank seriously. Is the same being true, of course, in the books.
Well, I think she's just trying to remove him so she can bring down Marjorie. So
yeah,
I mean, he might be ineffectual, but he still has a big ass army.
Very true.
When his son is jailed and Marjorie's jailed and he can't just come back from Bravos immediately to lead an army.
Yeah, he would probably, as you know, as obsequious as he is, he'd probably have something to say about Loras being jailed if he was still around.
My son is gay? Nonsense.
But yeah, the next big thing we get, of course, is Cersei talking with the High Sparrow and pretty much giving him permission to rearm the Faith, reestablish the Faith militant. She's down for this, obviously, with the intention of getting Loras in trouble, which, of course, by proxy will get Marjorie in trouble as well. And yeah, maybe not the best move.
Did you find it weird that the High Septon doesn't like the taste of wine? Who doesn't like the taste of wine?
Well, I think it fits with his ascetic personality, right? It's
what else do they have to drink in this world, right? Like,
yeah.
like come
Beer
on,
and
man.
wine.
Like, and what's the thing that Grand Maester drinks? The milk,
Hippocras?
ice milk, or whatever.
No.
Well, Bolton drinks Hippocras, which is a kind of wine, I think, right?
Maybe he likes fermented mare's milk like the Dothraki.
Of course, that's delicious. I thought it was like, Cersei, like, I can't fathom this concept of not drinking.
Yeah.
I think that was what they were going for with that. But yeah, I think it just fit with his sort of like self-effacing aesthetic, like he forgoes. But I guess it was supposed to be sort of endearing too, that like, oh, I just don't have a taste for it. My stomach can't handle it, kind of thing. Which of course is immediately juxtaposed with his underlings beginning their crusade of rounding up people and killing people and generally causing lots of trouble as they invade Littlefinger's brothel, as often done, despite the protests of Olivar, and rounding up people, specifically the people that are I guess that they see as sexual deviants, the men having sex with men, and that is a big issue for them here. And eventually, of course, this culminates with capturing Loras and bringing him to the Sept.
Did it bother anyone else when the Gold Cloaks just turned their backs to, obviously crimes are being committed? It's not like they're handing out justice, they're just destroying shit.
I actually kind of like that, because I mean, maybe it wasn't necessary, but I thought it did underscore that this was being done with the Crown's permission, or at least Cersei's permission. Tommen doesn't really have any part to play here, as we soon find out. And yeah, I thought that was cool of establishing that they're not involving themselves intentionally, and it was a very explicit proof of that. I like that, actually.
At this point in the novels, who is the commander of the Gold Cloaks?
It's not
Adam
Jason
Marbrand?
Yeah, Marbrand. That sounds right.
He's in the Riverlands already with Jaime.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But I don't know.
No idea.
I don't know.
Don't think he exists in the show.
I'm kind of surprised the show just doesn't make Mace Tyrell.
Yeah, you get to be commander of the Gold Cloaks too. That's two things with gold involved in your.
I am very good at inspiring men.
Yep.
It's Carl Tanner's brother.
Gold Cloaks. He's a fucking legend as well. So
right.
Makes sense.
I'd say Lancel was pretty lucky that right when they got there, Loras was just putting down his sword and shield, then taking everything off to get arrested.
Yeah, these guys
actually fighting him.
Weren't those supposed to be his squires or something, and loyal to House Tyrell? They didn't do anything.
I think they just didn't know how to react because this is so unfounded. This situation.
Yeah, it's like, wait, what is going on? Is this like where are the kin cameras? You know what I mean? Is this seriously happening?
Yeah. I think that was pretty much the reason for that. I think that they would have, if they had been prepared and knew what was going on, they would have probably resisted in some capacity, and I think they easily could have. I don't think these guys, as they are being represented right now, are that scary of a military force besides strength of numbers, because they're just in robes and stuff and grabbing people, knives and things like that. I don't think if there was some dedicated resistance to their efforts, that they would be that successful.
Yeah, like anyone fighting back.
Yeah, they're just causing havoc in the streets and rounding people up. So yeah. What are some more thoughts on this whole sequence and the way that the show is handling this setup with the High Sparrow and the Faith taking control?
Well, they needed to show this very quickly that these people are scary.
Yeah.
And then to do that, they used the various cuttings and cutouts. And I don't know. People either find this really effective, which I've read several reviews saying that it's really effective, or they find it somewhat cheesy, and I don't know.
It's like strawmanning religious zealotry.
Yeah, it's kind of taking all the stereotypes that we kind of expect, carving symbols into their head, and and of course the emphasis on homosexual people, sexual deviants. That's not really what's going on in the books, and that is what the route they chose to go with the show.
I mean, they're trying to cut down first of all characters, because in the books there's so many different, the Street Cattle Blacks.
Yeah, we don't have all these people that we can
Jalabar
associate.
Joe that they can use. Yes. But in the show, none of those characters exist, and the show has no inclination to introduce all of these idiots. So they just use Loras.
And we knew this was going to happen, right? We knew that this is the way they were planning to go, and they set it up just fine. I don't know. It does feel a little bit cheap, and it's not something I'm eager to see represented. Like, it makes me feel, it's just like, I don't really. This is not.
Yeah,
fun,
I just don't like it.
But it's it's effective, like you said, and it will definitely at the very least it makes us not, even if we had these sort of like, this High Sparrow guy's not so bad. We know now that he is pretty bad.
I would have liked to see them like try that shit when Oberyn was in the brothel. That would be
that would be.
And they had to do something with Loras after they didn't make him a Kingsguard. Like, so there's no him going to Dragonstone. It's like you have to do something to put him in peril, right?
True.
So
Yeah, that's
I guess
true.
it makes sense. I just didn't really like the concept. Just I don't know.
True. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm vaguely like, this is just but I don't
It's like
have
religious people don't like them gays,
exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, like in the books, it's not really like a big deal, but there are people that are clearly like, oh yeah, everyone knows like what he's into, but as long as he marries and produces offspring, for his line, no one really cares, right? Like no one's going around like trying to round people up and kill them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, apparently Deuteronomy is in a 7-pointed star, whatever the book is.
Victarion's not a big fan of the gay prostitutes. He just dumps them overboard.
True, but he's Victorian, so
yes.
There's a Horsebane number.
We do have some examples, but this is definitely the most explicit, at least very least, association with the faith, with hardline religion in Westeros. The seven gods and all that they do have a problem with this. So we move to the scene where Tommen's just enjoying his breakfast, just having a good time, and Marjorie comes in and tells him he needs to take action because, of course, Loras has been imprisoned. He's the king. He should do something about this. And Tommen's like, oh, right, I'm the king. I should do something about this. And he goes first to Cersei to try to figure out what's going on, try to vaguely get her to do something about it, but she denies any involvement whatsoever. And then goes to talk to the High Sparrow himself on her suggestion, and he is turned away by the men at the gate. They cite that he is praying, and obviously he can't be disturbed. And the Kingsguard say they'd be willing to cut through them, but Tommen, gentle heart that he is, doesn't want any violence. But he does get some calls that he's an abomination. So they definitely push him.
I thought they liked him more than Joffrey, and they like Merge Tyrell. So.
Well, I think these are the Sparrows, right? And this is part of their thing, right? That they see him as another form of well, at least with Cersei and Jaime, another form of sexual deviance, and they see him as the byproduct of such a disturbing thing, right?
And that is established in the books that the Faith militants hate incest.
Yeah.
A lot.
They sure do.
Like the Targaryens, even for a long time, they were like, isn't that part of the reason why they went away in the first place?
Probably, yeah. I imagine that played some role. That they just were butting heads too much with the monarchy, as they already are immediately.
Yeah, it's like, look, I'm gonna marry my sisters, and you guys need to just shut up about it.
Well, they were at like super war with Maegor the Cruel, and then they kept being at war until Jaehaerys the Conciliator fixed it.
Not just regular war, but super war. That's the only kind of war that Maegor the Cruel fights.
It was kind of sad to see how quickly Tommen went from the best days of his life, everything is perfect, all things are rosy, to wow, everything's falling apart. My mom, my wife, everyone's mad at me. These people are calling me abomination. I can't do anything right.
I definitely felt bad for him. We're sort of predisposed to disliking the Lannisters from the outset, but Tommen, of course, is such a he's a good guy. I don't want him to have to deal with this shit.
And how oblivious he was to that anything was wrong to begin with. He thought everything was going so swimmingly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like how Marjorie's just like, fuck this, I'm calling up the Queen of Thrones.
Yeah. I am hyped. If she's coming back for real, awesome. I can't wait.
More players in the game.
Yeah, baby.
Maybe she's the one who turns the chair against Cersei. Here's the table, I mean.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, I think that makes sense. That'd be a cool way of handling it. We do, of course, get the last scene where Tommen comes back and tells Marjorie, I did nothing. And she, of course, is further upset by this and realizes that Tommen, despite her efforts to wrest control of him, he's not doing much for her, which I think she maybe should have realized earlier on, that he, despite his position, just has no actual, effective influence over anything.
Yeah, I think he'll find motivation when, the booty faucet is closed and...
That's definitely what has happened, so maybe we'll see Tommen kicked into action here. I don't know. Let's go ahead and move to the wall where we have more interlude type stuff with Jon Snow training in the yard. Selyse, Stannis, and Melisandre look on. Melisandre, of course, a few extra lingering looks there. Selyse talks about how Shireen is terrible, and as she does, and doesn't want her around, and etc. Stannis, has this discussion with Melisandre, says that he needs her. That's kind of an important establishment, that he will take her with him to Winterfell. Also, Melisandre mentioning that despite her scars, Shireen still has a king's blood, whatever that could mean.
Yeah, that's a big womp womp.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of the tempering of course, the epic moment we get with Stannis later with Shireen. I'm like, this is not going to end well. With that stuff in scope.
Yeah, Selyse is like the worst mom ever.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, she's just awful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit odd that she's all about, I've only given you weakness and deformity, when Shireen wasn't like born that way. She just got that disease later. So it's not like it was Selyse's fault that she birthed a monster or anything.
That was interesting. That's a change, right? She's born with grayscale, I think, or some.
Well, we don't know how she
predisposition.
Yeah.
I guess we don't know, but I assumed that it was kind of some predisposition to grayscale. I don't know how that works. I don't know anything, but yeah, I that's strange. That is strange that it was sort of something that came later. But I guess it's more the fact that she's a girl, I guess, and she never bore him a son. I think that's part of it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
because there's no way she could get it at birth unless like Selyse has like grayscale of the labia or something. Right?
True enough. All right, so we move to the scene where Jon is signing letters, calling for aid in whatever capacity he can from the Northern Lords. Sam hands him a letter to ask aid from Roose Bolton. Jon at first is not into this, obviously. He's not the biggest fan of Roose, but is eventually convinced. The Night's Watch, as has been firmly established, only have like 50 dudes, so they need some more.
I like the Duncan Ed nod to Lord Ashford.
Oh yeah,
and also
is that he's not in the North though? I guess they're generally calling for.
I think they're going for everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah.
And also, I really like the fact that they just show Sam as like being able to stand up for himself and like be like, no, like I'm not a pussy anymore. Like, let's do this.
Yeah, and it's probably good advice, though. I don't think that any aid is going to be coming, at least from Roose or anyone, because things, of course, are so serious in the North in other ways.
He already gave him Locke, and look what happened with that.
Yeah, very true. And then, of course, we have Melisandre coming on in, furthering the efforts between her and Stannis and Davos to get Jon to abandon the Night's Watch and come with them, though she has some more effective, potentially, negotiation tactics, of course. Putting on the moves on Jon, showing off life in all its grandeur, and it looks like Jon might be convinced at first, but he eventually is able to hold off. Jon, maintains his oath.
Like winter is coming, and like she just dresses so that like at a moment's notice she can just be like boom.
She has the fire inside her.
Yeah, she's to the cold.
Pull strings on her all her clothes that they can fall off at any moment.
Yeah, like do I need clothes in the next 5 minutes? Is like the thought in her head.
Mm-hmm. It's weird to me that the fact that this is kind of true in the books as well, that her sexuality is so emphasized. It seems like that's everything that she's doing. That's not bad, I guess, but I don't know. It's kind of like I wish there was more going on here than that.
So, do you think she was trying to get Jon to make a shadow baby with her, or
I think so.
I
think so.
She does say about shadows, like she says that
you have power in you that you're not tapping,
which is an interesting comment. I don't know what she means by that, but I guess there is.
Yeah, did she mean like warg power or like king's blood power?
I think that it's just ambiguous power, and I think it's some association with whatever his role as Azor Ahai roller type stuff. Maybe
great core strength, good ab work.
Yeah, good abs.
Does she like want to send the shadow baby to Winterfell? Like what?
That seemed to be the implication that they would kill Roose with it, right?
Right. She even drops the Winterfell. He has knowledge of Winterfell's
the tunnels.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I thought that Jon dodged a bullet there, not having to do the shadow baby consummation.
I like how he's like, "What are you gonna do? Show me visions in your fire or something?" And she's like, "Nope, just my tits."
Yeah.
As the cabinet behind Jon shakes, as Ollie masturbates furiously.
I was wondering where he was this episode.
Yep.
I guess that works.
Staying out of sight.
Yep.
Changing his pants.
Is it Thomas on the forums who's of the opinion that there's already been a shadow baby spawned
Yeah, FT Ward.
I believe so. FT Ward.
You mean in the books?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think But
yeah, because there's some like line like where she's looking in the fire and she feels it like running down her leg or something, and it's like similar to the shadow that she birthed.
The descriptions
earlier.
of her physical like feelings of when she had the shadow baby, and then later it's the same description of she's doing other stuff. Yeah,
but that's not with John though, because we would have seen that. Obviously, I think, right? Or maybe not. I don't know.
It just happened in between some of his point of view chapters.
We don't need to see everything with John.
Yeah,
it's not that important. Yeah, I guess that is some proof. The other interesting thing is in terms of differences from the book and the show is I thought that she kind of wrote John off in the book. She was kind of not seeing him as someone with any potential to do anything. Is that accurate?
Really? I feel like the opposite, because she's always like, everywhere I look, all I see is stuff.
Yeah, but she seems to not want to recognize that. Or
she's trying not to believe it.
Yeah, exactly.
That was my interpretation. That he's important.
Whereas here, she seems to think that he does have some, maybe not as Azor Ahai, she still seems to think that's Stannis, but she thinks he has some power. And there's a lot here about John and things with him in terms of backstory. Of course, we'll get more of that.
Think about Stannis saying that that's not Eddard Stark's way.
Not Eddard Stark's way. That is definitely one instance of that, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of nudging towards that, those theories.
I wonder what they're going to do with that, and if something is coming up soon, I guess we'll have to see. All right, so we, of course, get probably everyone's favorite scene. Maybe I'm presuming, at least my favorite scene of the episode with Shireen going to Stannis and asking him if he is ashamed of her, which is, if not heart-wrenching enough. He then tells the story of how she contracted grayscale, and it's like this awful like circumstance where obviously it wasn't born to happen. It was just this twist of fate. Though I think what it's implying is that this was deliberate, right? That the traitor had some intention to.
And the traitor was from Dorne, right?
Yeah, from Dorne.
So a couple things in like the past couple scenes, just to go back for a second, that really distract me is when Melisandre and John are talking. All I could think of is like that visual thing. Is it like two faces looking at each other, or is it a cup? Like that was really distracting to me. And then this part, all I thought about is the South Park episodes where the Indians are rubbing the Asians into blankets to spread SARS. So like all I pictured was a Dornishman like going to the stone men and rubbing like a doll on their face or something.
I have a feeling those are very unique concerns that nobody else was sharing with you.
That was sort of my.
Put them on the forums.
I was like, oh, it's like it's like they brought over a tainted blanket, like.
Yeah, my impression was that it was deliberate, which is awful, and I guess that shows whatever degree of animosity I guess there is between Baratheon and Dorne people, and just like why Stannis distrusts so many people, like a little bit more of that. Yeah, that was good actually. I thought that was a cool thing to establish.
Well, it kind of reminded, also kind of referenced like Amin's Dornish letter theory. Do you think that Dorne was like, we're going to give you grayscale? Like they just have like some special poison over there, like some grayscale vial. That they have the strain of grayscale locked away. Yeah, exactly. Like it's like smallpox or something. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't know who this traitor could have been acting with, like if he was acting alone or whatever, and whatever thing was driving this action. But I do think that whoever it was a the killing thing. Of Elia, right? If Stannis is on Dragonstone, that means it's after the rebellion. Mm-hmm. So I think Dorne had plenty of... Yeah, sure, they had bone to pick. Yeah. Yep. All right. So yeah, really cool scene here. It just, Stannis makes the claim, like, you're my daughter, you're Princess Shireen, and, I'll stick with you. But the thing that has been nagging with me with this that I don't think everyone's recognizing is this going to hold up? If Melisandre asks it for her, is he going to say no? Yeah, it's going to be tough. Yeah. I hope so. Yeah, it's interesting to have this, and then of course have the moment where he does say like, "I'm with you, Melisandre," earlier on, and it's going to be ugly whatever happens. Yeah, I think Stannis is like Father of the Year for this season until Jaime rescues Myrcella. Yeah, if he rescues Myrcella. When? No, I'm going with when. Sure. Hopefully. Also, the hug scene was just priceless. Yep. Yeah, it was. He doesn't hug her, and then he's like, "What is this? What am I feeling right now in my chest? I don't understand." That was pretty. It was nice how they mixed in some comedy with the emotional about how she's first like, "I don't think that I was supposed to be here," and then why would you think that? Well, that's what Mom said. I don't want you here. That was really funny how she just point blank said. And then when she moves the boats and the Bolton thing, he gets up and he has to move them back to where they were.
Yep.
on the table.
Yep.
Yeah, I like how boredom is a lack of resourcefulness.
Yeah, that seems to make sense for Stannis' character, that he would have internalized that particular message. Yeah, I thought it was a really genuine and really just heartfelt scene. One of my favorite scenes of Game of Thrones so far. Really well acted and just really good in all accounts. Like you guys are saying, there's just a lot of cool just elements going on to make it a really awesome scene. And like I say, I just want to enjoy it in isolation, but I'm just concerned. I'm concerned of what's going to happen.
I don't even
The
like
show-
Stannis, and I love this scene.
Yeah, the problem is the show doesn't want to let you be happy, so I'm not ready to just accept this.
The show and George, come on.
True, very true.
But yeah, this is like one of those scenes where it's like, the old veteran cop's like, okay, one more time I'll go back, but then it's retirement and living with my family and being all happy. And it's like, no, this is not going to end well for you, friend.
Yeah.
It's the later scene you're talking about, though.
Well, both.
Oh, yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you did get that a couple times, with Braun, too, where it's like, I'm going to die in my bed, like, very old, watching my sons fight over my inheritance. It's like, nope.
Yeah, going back to that for a sec, you can't help but think that that's potentially, misdirection, foreshadowing for whatever his fate is going to be. That is not that.
Yeah.
So I think we can safely say no matter what, that's probably not how he's going to end up. Though maybe, I don't know, he's a lord now, or a knight. That's always nice. All right, so let's go ahead and move to Winterfell, where we get this scene with Sansa wandering around the crypts, Littlefinger appearing from the shadows in the creepiest Littlefinger way possible, to tell a story about a young girl who was kidnapped, and it was the start of something totally cool and not weird and uncomfortable and bad, of course. And this is the story of Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen and the Year of the False Spring and the Tourney in Harrenhal, which is, obviously a super awesome story in the book that we finally get to see in a show. It's Littlefinger telling Sansa it. Maybe not what we expected, but we get it. And of course, this is another instance of potential, and probably the most explicit instance, of potential setup for revealing Jon Snow's true parentage.
Yeah, so I like how in the beginning it's like previously on Game of Thrones, King Robert putting a feather into Lyanna's hand.
And then she picks it up, yeah.
Yep.
That was pretty sweet. Yeah.
Kind of,
I thought it was the subtlety of it was undercut slightly by the preview, but this is a thing they have to do, obviously, to set up what's going to happen in the episode. But yeah, that was a pretty cool thing to keep in there.
I bet most show watchers don't even remember King Robert anyway, so.
Yeah, they need you to notice their cleverness. They wouldn't want to put in the effort without people noticing.
Exactly. All right, so thoughts on this whole, this way of revealing this information and just this dynamic between Littlefinger and Sansa?
Just Sansa, again, is basically telling, Littlefinger is telling Sansa just to, seduce Ramsay, and that'll make it all better?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's like, you know how to control people, and he, looks down at her tits again and gives that creepy kiss.
Littlefinger. I don't think that's going to work out. I don't think that.
No, I don't think so either.
Ramsay's the seducible type.
I mean, in a very general sense, you can see where he's going. Yeah, so basically you win either way. Either Stannis wins and everything's fine, or you take over Ramsay. But, if you think hard about it, there are plenty of holes in this plan.
Yeah, if
what
Stannis,
Stannis doesn't even know what Sansa looks like.
Exactly, and he might see her as a traitor for whatever reason. Seems like a Stannis kind of thing to do, though maybe not. Maybe I'm not as predisposed to Stannis as most people, so maybe I'm not giving him enough credit. Though I also didn't really give Littlefinger enough credit. I was talking about this last episode. I guess that he does genuinely think that things are going to work out for Sansa, or at least that's what he's saying. Of course, you can never know with Littlefinger, but he seems to be convinced that Stannis is going to help things.
So you wrote in the show notes, which I also agreed was the wardenness of Winterfell?
Well, yeah.
Not the wardenness of the North or the Lady of Winterfell?
Yeah, why can't she be Lady Stark of Winterfell? What is prohibiting that title? Why does it have to be Wardeness of the North? And it's this weird thing the show does where it seems to glorify the Warden title, where in the books it feels like a very minor honor that doesn't really mean much.
Right.
It's just sort of like someone's always had that title, so whatever.
It's associated with your lordship. And
like a certain seat is just that's what comes with the job.
Well, it's a purely military title that the king bestows. So that if a state of war is declared, the warden is the chief military commander, but
that's my understanding of it. So that's kind of strange that would be the one highlighted for Sansa. I mean, I'm not saying she couldn't be a military commander, but it's weird that Lady Stark was foregone in favor of.
Wouldn't all of this have gone over a little better if they had talked about like succession rules in Dorne and all that, if they had laid that groundwork?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but that's way too much exposition.
Right.
There might have been some way of presenting that in a compelling way, but yeah, I guess that definitely is kind of a slog to establish.
Maybe Obara can throw a spear at someone while she says that.
Let me tell you the story about how in Dorne women have
Well, I mean, last season when Oberon gives that line where he's like, oh, well, we don't hurt little girls in Dorne, he'd be like, in fact, we allow them to rule.
That would have been not the best way to do it.
No, that would.
By the way,
just throw it in there. Why not?
I guess.
So, what do you guys think Littlefinger is going to King's Landing to actually do? Like, what was requested of him?
I think Cersei perhaps wants evidence to against the Tyrells for whatever reasons.
Just to have someone on her side who's clever and cunning and can help her out with.
She wants the security video from his brothel.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't the impression that like she got wind of what he was doing up there and was like, get back here now?
Well, she didn't even know where he was. She thought he was still in the Vale.
But how did she get word to him in Winterfell? Like,
she sent it to the Vale, and then a rider went from the Vale to Winterfell.
Because things take like no time in this world.
Yep. Speed-driven mail.
Maybe she wants to blame him for something. I mean, she just tore his brothel down. Yeah, so
she didn't do it. She's not involved.
Right.
That.
Her hands are clean.
Yes. And yeah, the final moment, is that Littlefinger is departing. That I guess the wedding is coming up because that's probably going to happen soon. And Sansa's on her own here. Whatever help may be rendered in the future by Brienne and Pod and maybe Theon too. We'll see. Not looking forward to it. Whatever they're going to do. So let's move to the last bit we get in the episode, Marine, where shit goes down, of course. So we open here with Dany standing atop the pyramid, looking out at her city. It looks pretty peaceful there, as it typically does. Obviously, a kind of an illusion. And she's talking to Barristan, who tells a story about Rhaegar Targaryen. Of course, I think count it third or fourth mention of Rhaegar or something with that kind of thing in the episode. So definitely a big deal. Definitely sort of one of the emphases in the episode, and how he's not a bad dude. He's saying to the commons, gave money away to various people, got drunk, seemed like a pretty cool guy.
Mm-hmm. I have a hard time seeing him as just like a troubadour, like walking down the street singing, but whatever.
Well, yeah, I don't think that is the way he did it. I think
like held court kind of.
Well, yeah, held court. I imagine sort of like a more. He's not like fun and outgoing. He's like this figure who's solemn and singing beautiful songs.
Well, I mean, they mentioned at the books that, like, during feast he would sing, but like not just like I'm gonna take a stroll and sing along.
Yeah. Well, he would go sit in the ruins of Summerhall and play his harp mournfully.
Yeah, so that image it codifies my understanding of Rhaegar, is that it's not like happy, go lucky, I'm going to go sing to the people. It's like, I'm going to sing it's going to be beautiful and heart-wrenching and stuff like that.
So do you think the people are just like, oh yeah, listen to this rich fucker sing about all his problems?
Well, Barristan does say he had to be around so they wouldn't kill him, so there's definitely some of that, I'm sure. But I think that I guess what it's establishing, at the least, if there's not genuine love for him, it's that he wasn't a bad dude. He was a cool dude, which of course is juxtaposed with Sansa's understanding of him, that he was a rapist and cruel. Pretty much the story that Robert has been espousing.
Yeah, well, I mean that's really the great thing from the books, is that like everyone that basically whenever we hear Rhaegar mentioned, it's except for by Robert and a bit from the Lannisters, like it's pretty positive. Like, oh yeah, everyone liked him. He was a nice guy. He was a great knight. He was, and like we don't get as much of that here on the show, but it's kind of nice for them to bring it back up and be like, he I don't know, he raped. I don't know. That's not really something that he would do.
That's very true, and I like that they're finally sort of making this point in the show, and I think that it's obviously going to be important with Jon. And so we get this nice moment with old Barristan Selmy, and we move to the scene where, of course, Daario informs Dany that there's a lot of people waiting outside to meet her at court, and she goes down, of course, the first being Hizdahr Zalork, who is wanting to open the fighting pits as he is wont to do. But the big thing this establishes is that Daario says that, I'm cool with guarding Dany, you don't need to be here, Barristan. So he goes out for a stroll in town, yeah. And in the meantime, we have this random brothel that I feel like people shouldn't be going to anymore. I feel like it should have a bad reputation at this point, where a bunch of people are killed by Sons of the Harpy, They run away, and a patrol of Unsullied hear about it and go chasing after them. They're ambushed in an alley place. I don't know what you would describe it as. They're severely outnumbered and surrounded and picked apart. And, I think the understanding of this is that there's various skirmishes going on around the city where Unsullied are being killed off.
And we get a shot of the whore of the Harpy.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's everywhere.
She's the Harpy, obviously. That's the...
She's really one of the Graces in disguise.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what's going on with her, but she's clearly one of the faces of the Sons of the Harpy in the show. So yeah, we get this scene, our final big scene where the Unsullied are ambushed. They're taken down by this group of Sons of the Harpy. Barristan shows up after hearing that there's some kind of commotion. He tries to help out, takes down a bunch of them, but is eventually brought low. Narrowly avoids having his throat slit with Grey Worm, who is still standing, saves the day.
Why is the commandant of the Unsullied
just around this
little patrol?
Because he has a face that we recognize, of course. Right.
At first, I was very underwhelmed with the fighting prowess of the Unsullied, where they're supposed to be so famed and renowned, that I thought they should have been able to do more and form formations and back against a wall and hold the random dudes at bay. But eventually, looking back on it, it seems like just wave after wave after wave. No matter how many guys you kill, they're going to keep coming. And I've kind of made peace with it. But it still seems like my understanding of the Sons of the Harpy is that they're just kind of like ex-masters. And yes, some of them may have been figurehead warriors and stuff, but they wouldn't be just using small knives to fight dudes with shields and spears. It just seems so...
The small knife thing pissed me off so much.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's street fighting. This is they're literally bringing...
some of them had slightly larger... short swords. So,
but none of the Unsullied had their short swords.
Yeah, that
pissed me off too.
This was set up.
What the fuck is going on?
They catch them in that corridor, and it's like it happened so quickly. But you figure if they could have rounded up in formation, like they were surrounded on both sides, but if they could have rounded up real quick, like they would have done a lot better. But you got 5 guys on you, and you have 1 spear. Like that was basically the problem with this fight.
Yeah, I think like one of the first deaths that we see, like when they get trapped in that little corridor, the guy just like slits his throat, like gets inside close enough to slit his throat with like a fucking 5-inch blade. And like this doesn't make any sense.
And there's the guy who's just fighting with his shield.
Right.
Well, here's another thing, though. We're talking about the fighting pits. So these people could potentially just be people who were out of work because the fighting pits got closed.
Dress them up in the fancy robes of the rich dudes.
Well, yeah, they could.
Rich dudes paid them to do it.
Yeah, but they should still wear like some armor or something if they're going to go do some brawling.
Well, it could be under.
Yeah, they're undercover though.
They got some under armor.
It wicks sweat away better.
Sons of the Harpy endorsed by Under Armour.
It's also easier to just move around the city.
Yeah.
And be less obvious wearing normal master clothes.
Normal master clothes with big golden masks isn't very...
It's not very good.
But they gotta hide the masks.
They probably didn't wear the mask when they were running around.
Also,
they only wear the mask in tunnel.
You saw all the people running away. Like that's what drew Barristan to the area, right? So these people came out of somewhere. They must have been waiting for the patrol to show up. Maybe they were hiding in a building, and then they just all...
Yeah, I think that makes sense. In terms of it being like believable and making sense, there is definitely some qualms there. I think that the Unsullied maybe didn't get as much of a badass moment as we kind of expect. I think there's some points that can be made to sort of try to make sense of it. First of all, of course, the fact that I think that by my estimation they were severely outnumbered, surrounded. That's going to be a huge problem, obviously. And the way that I guess that we think that they could have handled that is to form some kind of formation, like a phalanx or something. But I don't think that they had enough men to properly do one. Like dealing with all angles. And I think that part of it could be that the fact that Unsullied are trained to follow orders. They aren't trained to take their own initiative, and maybe Grey Worm or something, like because he's the commander, he froze up or something and didn't have time to get them in a proper formation.
Yeah, looking at it now, there's only 8 of them.
Yeah, it's like 8 to 20, so it's pretty long.
More than that, right? More than that, because
yeah,
Grey Worm himself killed like 13 of them.
And then
there's only 8
13 more.
Unsullied.
Yeah.
So there's like 8 Unsullied, and there's like 15 people on each side of them.
They literally got Zerg rushed.
Even if they didn't want to kill all the... They didn't have to kill like all the Sons of the Harpy, even though they ended up doing that, but they could have just locked their shield and just charged through the guys right in front of them and then just run through the alley and leave.
Or just backed into the smaller alley and like just held that position or something.
Yeah. But I guess just the narrative reason they're supposed to die, so they have to die.
True.
And they can kill some people on the way, I guess.
Yeah. The bigger qualm with me was with this, and then eventually with Barristan, was that it was just filmed kind of awkwardly. Like there was lots of cuts, and it was just like everyone was kind of flailing besides Barristan and Grey Worm. They were the only ones that seemed to have any idea of what they were doing for the most part as fighters. And the fact that the Sons of the Harpy like rush Barristan one by one, that's the stupid thing that always happens in this kind of thing. We're like, oh, let's go one by one. Surely that is the best strategy here.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they're like
they
5-on-1 to everyone else.
Yeah, for everyone else, they respect him. They want to get the glory of killing.
Yeah. Let me try him 1-on-1.
Yeah,
but I think like the jump cuts and the shaky cam and stuff. That's just like that's how action is shot these days 90% of the time.
True.
Sadly, so
lends itself to the chaos of the scene where it's like you're not sure what the fuck's going on. But
I guess the issue with it, I think the main thing a lot of people have an issue with is, well, first of all, it seems, especially given previews, that Barristan is dead as a result of this. And of course, the books, we expect him to be doing more later and doing more cool stuff. And if that's done, obviously that's disappointing. Barristan's a cool character. It's cool to see, just his stalwartness as a fighter and stuff, and to see him brought low like this. Well, I think that it was certainly glorious from my eyes. I can see why people would see it as inauspicious, given all these things we mentioned with the Sons of the Harpy being untrained, just like less cool, fighters, and he, he's killed without armor, without his shield, and yeah, I think that I can see why people have an issue with the glorious Barristan. You could cut through the entire Kingsguard like carving a cake, and he's brought down here by Sons of the Harpy.
Well, I think that's the whole point. Like, he wasn't in armor, because even when he fights the pit fighter, like in Hizdar's bedroom, like in book 5, like he's wearing armor, and he's just like, that will catch whatever he's throwing at me. Like, all I have to do is aim for him. And I think when he says that to the Kingsguard, he's still in his Kingsguard armor, right? No, he's not, because a naked knight, it would seem.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Well, he's just taking off his greaves and like his cloak and stuff.
But the point here is, like, again, it's the same thing. The show has repeated this message over and over again. So the noble knight doesn't almost always lose to the people who are to dirty fighters, and that was established all the way back in season 1 when Bronn beat whatever his name is in the Vale.
Vardis Egan.
Yeah, but I don't know if the show really needed to make this point again with Barristan, but obviously they saw a narrative need to kill him now. I don't know what that need is, because I haven't seen what's coming.
And I kind of like think it makes sense. I think there's this issue that people have where they tend to glorify Barristan and just this notion of the badass fighter in general. And the fact is that he was plenty badass, but the fact is he is just one man, and with those long odds, he's going to be overwhelmed. He's an old man too. Yeah, he's old.
And I'm guessing this is just the easy fix for, well, now she's going to have Tyrion, and she'll have to accept him because he knows the ins and outs of where she wants to go, and she'll have to accept Jorah back because she really needs him. Like, I think it's just sort of a quick way around those issues.
Sure. Needs Jorah, needs Tyrion. Do you think Grey Worm is dead?
No. They've done too much setup with his story to just kill him off yet.
Yeah, I think
I'm still in denial about Barristan, actually.
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird the way they set it up, because it makes you think he would have lived, because it's set up like Grey Worm saved him, right? So why would he die then, right?
Yeah, there are some pretty big pools of blood underneath those bodies, but like I think someone already said that it's confirmed that Barristan's dead, but Grey Worm,
he's like on a
he's gonna get nursed by Melisandre or something like that, and they'll build up that storyline more. I don't like it. I think they should have both died.
Okay, I'm fine with Grey Worm being alive. I like him.
Yeah, but I think just to build up the Melisandre storyline, like, what else can he do? Like, I think it would have been better for them just to go both in battle like they're supposed to go. But
maybe there's more battles coming up that he can go in.
That's true. That's fair enough.
Who knows at this point with the Marine plot? It's going to be completely different. Maybe the fighting pits, or that'll be the same otherwise.
Did anybody think this made Dario look a little shady? That he was like, "Oh, you should go. I'm fine. It's all taken care of. Just go for a walk and out into the violent streets." Like he knew what was going to happen or something.
I didn't think of that, but yeah, I don't know.
I didn't really think of that either, but that's a good point. Also, where was Barristan going?
Just for
a bar, a
crawling around.
Yeah. He wasn't expecting trouble, or he would have gone, armored.
He had his sword on him.
Well, he just sword, but yeah, I mean that's a given, right? It's a little bit strange. I would have expected him, Book Barristan probably would have had his armor on, just in general. But that stuff is cumbersome, You just want to let yourself out a bit.
Yeah, but I like the fighting and everything. But he did look slow, like getting some younger guy in armor, where we see like the actor Barristan like put on his helmet, and then we don't really get a close up of his face, and just see him like lightning fast, like kicking
doing
ass,
backflips and
I would have liked a few backflips. That would have really added it to the scene for me. Yeah, I don't know. I doubt even that it was Barristan doing, or the actor who plays Barristan actually doing even that. But yeah, It would have. I guess if we want to see epic, glorious, graceful Barristan and not
crap, guys, that was fast.
Yeah, I mean, well, we have so many less people. I think it only makes sense. I think that'll wrap it up for us for this week of DragonCast. This was episode 4, season 5. We'll be back hopefully next week for episode 5. I'm not going to be here, and I guess Greg's not going to be here either, so hopefully we can make that happen. We'll try our best if anyone is willing to step up and take the reins, do the editing, of course. That would be sweet, I think. All right, so that's it, guys. Thank you guys for joining me once again. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for listening, anyone who's listening, and we'll wrap it there.
Yes. All right.
very good.
Thank you.
Just imagine George being like, all right, I need a name for the leader of Doran. Let's just reorganize the letters a bit. Drop an E, add an A.
There was an era in Westeros where every sort of leader matched their leader. Wesley Lannister.
Winter Stark of Winterfell.
Northrop Stark.
Do you think Bronn's going to make it?
I actually think so. They're sending it.
I don't really care.
Look, he's got to come back to Lollies, okay? That's his one true love.
No, because it's the trope of like, we're just going to do one more job, man. One more job, and then we're out of the game. And then you die on that like mission or
Yeah,
whatever.
and well, maybe they'll not do that this time,
Yeah, maybe they're trying to
Fake us into it.
yeah.
Like, trick us into thinking that's going to
Maybe he does one more job and he goes and finds Tyrion because he's like, that's my bro.
Yeah, he's just going to like end with telling Jaime, be like, tell Lollies I love her castle. So I listened to the full castle recording.
Oh my god, it was so
Awesome,
good,
guys.
Zach.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey.
Yeah.